Hey fam, welcome to another episode of Good, Bad, and Ugly about real estate. I have a great guest for you, a new friend of mine, Mr. Michael Hong. Yeah!
I love that. I love that, brother. The sound.
How you doing, Michael?
Living the dream, man. Thanks for getting you on here. We had you on my podcast, and you said you were going to have me on yours, so I'm glad we finally got to connect.
For sure. So, I'm not going to spoil it for the audience. I'm going to kind of just jump right into it. So, if you could please share your real estate journey, like go back as far as you want. What made you decide to get into real estate? What are you doing these days? And why should we be listening to you?
Well, I was born at a very young age.
As we all were. Yeah.
No. So I've never really believed in a job. And what I mean by that is when I was a kid, my dad had a swimming pool company. And before that, he had a plumbing company, right? So he was a plumber, and then he built swimming pools, in-ground swimming pools for a living. And that meant that he would make good money during the summer. And during the winter, he was home. We had to live through winter on summer's harvest, right?
Sure.
And when my first real job, I mean, I had a couple of jobs. I worked with my dad's swimming pool company if it was weekends, holidays, if there was no school, guess what? Go to bed early because we're waking up at 4:30 to go dig a swimming pool. That's how I grew up. That's why on the shelf behind me here, I have uniloaders and dump trucks along with some other things that are iconic for the stages of my life. And so then when I got my first real job, I worked in oil and gas, kind of, sort of. We built land-based rigs.
Okay.
So the rigs that would drill, we were fabricating and building them from scratch. And that was feast or famine as well. It was like you kind of knew when the job was coming to an end because we're almost done building this rig and we don't have a signed contract for another one, right? So the managers would joke and say, "We're about to give you boys a vacation." And so we would get laid off. We would go home, draw unemployment, and if things went well, in 3 months we'd be back. So people would go fishing, hunting, go get drunk, whatever, play video games, whatever you do. So you'd get 6 months off, you'd file for unemployment, and then we'd come back for another job. And then that kind of drove me to go to college because I wanted a better, more stable future than that. But college didn't really get me to where I wanted to go. So I actually didn't finish college. I don't have a college degree. And so I worked my way up through corporate America thinking a white collar job was the answer because I came from a blue collar background. And what I found when I achieved that white collar job, I was a manager in a Fortune 500 company. I traveled a lot, but I was salary. I got paid whether there was bad weather or we didn't have work or whatever. And I found myself traveling Monday through Friday. I was on a plane to a different city. So I'd fly in, fly out. We were in 38 states, Canada, and Puerto Rico. We grew the company to about 1.1 billion in revenue, and then we went public. And the share of that harvest wasn't split the way it was promised, let's just say. And so I kind of saw the writing on the wall for a number of years that if I really wanted something, I was going to have to build it myself. That a lot of millionaires are not made from salary. They're not made from a W-2. They're made by equity. They're made by owning things, holding assets, building businesses, providing services, and owning a slice of that business. And so for me, that was real estate. And I'm so thankful I discovered real estate. So I did what everybody did. I started watching podcasts, listening to audiobooks, turned my car into like a rolling university, listening to, I had a queue of podcasts every week. I would catch the old school Bigger Pockets podcast. And this was a long time ago. The format has changed quite a bit over the years. And so I forget what it was. Every Wednesday or every Thursday, whatever it was, a new episode would come out. And at the end of that episode, the guest would always recommend 1 or 2 books. And so then my goal was to read that book or listen to it on Audible all the way before the next week's episode comes up of the Bigger Pockets podcast. So someone who was my partner and my first mentor told me that was my master's degree in real estate, was to do that for a very long time. And I started going to meetups, free meetups around me. Anybody who's new, who is not going to meetups, you're missing out. You can go to meetup.com. You can go on BiggerPockets website, look for meetups near you. You can get on Facebook and find the real estate groups near you. Go in there and ask for meetups, but you got to have meetups as a part of your routine when you're starting. And so I just didn't believe that it was real or it was possible until I got around people that were doing it. But for me, my first deal, what really wasn't the deal that I was looking for. I needed to buy a house as a house hack because I needed to marry my wife and move her to Houston. My wife was in college in Louisiana, and we needed to get married and get her moved here to make her family happy about the situation. And so we wanted to house hack. For everybody not listening, that's where you buy, or everybody listening who may not know, it's where you buy a 2, 3, or 4 unit property. You live in one unit, rent out the others. Excuse me, my allergies are killing me today. I don't know what's going on here in Texas. So the other part of house hacking is to buy a house and rent out by the room. Well, we were looking for quite a while and we couldn't find what we were looking for. So we ended up buying a larger house with a lot of bedrooms in an older, rougher part of town. And it's funny, you don't know what you can do until you do it. I didn't think I was going to be qualified for the loan, but I was. And because I had people in these meetup groups that were around me, they said, "Oh, you're a first-time home buyer. You should look for a down payment assistance program." So I talked to lenders who knew about these programs because these programs are out there, but you got to find the lenders that know about them.
Right.
And so, and the programs change all the time. The funding dries up, and then they launch a new program with new rules and criteria. But at the time, when my situation and my wife was in college, not working, and we were married, we qualified for a down payment assistance package that gave us all the money we needed to close. Plus, the seller gave us some credits back, and there was some money left back from the down payment assistance program. I got a check for $800 at closing.
Nice.
Paid, yeah, it's very nice. I got paid to buy a house. And our goal was to rent it out. And my thought was, because before I met my wife, I was renting a room in a house with other people because I came to a point where I was traveling for work and I had my own apartment. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I renting this whole apartment? I'm single and by myself. So I was switched to renting a room in a house full of people and traveling for work. And then when I met my wife, I said, all right, let's buy a house. But I was spending $600 a month to rent a room at the time when I met her. And I said, well, I wonder if we could buy a house and rent out a couple of rooms, and then we just spend $600 a month on the mortgage, so we can have our own house and live in a situation like this. And through the miracle of real estate, because properties go up over time, rents go up
Right.
over time, debt pays down over time. What happened is in very short amount of time, like I think it was within a year, we were like living for free when we with just a couple of roommates. And when you're sharing space with people, we didn't have kids, we didn't have animals. It's not for everybody. But I think everybody should be house hacking when they start out in their real estate journey. You don't have to. I know people that go right into owning rentals. But for us, it was great. I think a lot of people, I'm like, all your money's tied up in your car payment in your apartment or the payment you're paying on a rental property. You don't need it. And even if you have kids, you can live in a duplex, triplex, or fourplex and still have your own space and rent out, the other units. But for us, it was great. My wife loved it. I loved it. We were real selective with the rules and who we rented out to, and we lived for free for like 4.5 years. And the part of town wasn't the greatest. It was an older, rougher community, but it was okay because that was a sacrifice that we made. And you have no idea how rich you are when you're living for free. Like when people say, I don't have any money to get started in real estate. Well, first of all, one, that's a lie. One, absolutely that's a lie because you don't need money to get started in real estate. Now, being the investor that I am today, I understand that I have private money lenders, I have partners, there's hard money lenders. I don't need money to get started. But you also have a salary, right? You have income coming in, and almost all of it's being tied up in like your food, housing, and your car. Well, for me, I paid my car off quickly and early, and then I drove it into the ground, and I was house hacking and living for free. And man, I got to tell you, I was like the richest person in my office because I wasn't even making six figures at the time. And the people above me were making $250,000 a year. And so the VP I reported to told me one time, I just can't get any breathing room to put money in my IRA. And I was just like, whoa, that hit me like a ton of bricks. This guy's making $250,000 a year. And the reason is there's this trap people fall into because he didn't go from making zero to making $250,000 a year. He slowly rose up through the ranks, right? His salary slowly increased. So he spent more money, as we all do as Americans. And now he was in his 50s. At that time, I think he was in his late 50s. He was balding and he couldn't even put money into his IRA, his retirement account. And I just had this moment where I was like, this is not who I want to be. And so you can be richer and more secure and have more disposable income than everyone in your office, not by getting promoted above them, but by simply house hacking and controlling your cost of living and making smart investments and building passive income. So I did the house hack, and then I rested on my laurels a little bit. Here's where fear, and I got into my own head for a little while. I thought this is amazing, and I need to be very, very, very careful about my next step because I don't want to screw this up. So for like 4.5 years or so, I rested on my laurels. I did nothing. Me and my wife steamrolled our salary into like the S&P 500 and paid off our cars and just kind of sat there and did a whole bunch of nothing. She's in school, there was a period of time in school where she worked part-time and went to school part-time. Then there was a part where she had to quit her job entirely and then go full-time into school to finish her master's program. And then I just got around the right people again, man. It's just the same story over and over again. I was around the right people and I was inspired to start buying rental properties. And I thought to myself, I'm just going to wholesale them. I don't have to be able to take them down. I don't have the money to take them down, and my thought was if I just could wholesale enough properties, one day I'll be able to flip. If I could flip enough properties, one day I can buy and hold. Well, I started sending out direct mail. There's lots of ways to find a deal, both on market and off market for everybody who's listening. On market's where it's listed on the MLS with an agent. Off market means no one knows about the deal. You found it before it goes to market. And I took a leap of faith and sent out direct mail. And I did this because the people around me were. And so when I was sending out mail, it took a little while for the phone calls to come in, and I was patient. And when people would call me, I would go out, walk the property, look at it, and do some calculations and make them an offer. And when I got my first deal under contract, the meetups that I was going to, the free meetup groups around me that I was going to, I showed someone the deal and they said, "Man, that is a good deal." I said, "Yeah, I know." They said, "What are you going to do?" I said, I'm going to wholesale it. I'm going to make $10,000-$15,000 and I'm going to move on to the next one. And that'll pay for a lot of direct mail. 10 to 15 grand will pay for a lot of letters. Let's go, baby. Somebody said, you really ought to talk to a private lender. Let me introduce you to a private lender. He might fund that for you. And I'm like, really? Okay. All right, let's do it. And so I'm thinking, okay, someone's going to give me money to buy this house and now I can flip it. Instead of making $10,000 or $15,000, I might make, $40,000 or $50,000. Let's go. I showed it to the private money lender. He said, "This is a great deal." He said, "I'll fund it for you. What do you want to do with it?" I said, "I guess I'm going to flip it." He said, "You could flip it. Why don't you talk to a conventional lender, like a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, like a long-term lender? Maybe you can fix it up and then just refinance out my private loan to you into like long-term debt because I think this thing will cash flow as a rental." I said, "Oh my God, really? I can do that?" "Oh yeah, this one might work. Go talk to a lender." And then he connected me with the lender. And so it turned out that not only could I buy this property and keep it, add it to my portfolio, but I found out that lender told me, "Hey, if you keep buying deals like this, you can put 10 of these in your name, and then you can put 10 of them in your wife's name. And then we can switch you to a different type of loan where you can just keep buying as long as they look like this." And so what was being drilled into my head at the time on podcasts and meetup groups and Bigger Pockets and everything I was watching at the time is they kept saying the same thing. If you find a good deal, the money will find you. If you find a good deal, the buyers will find you. And that really didn't set in with me. I didn't really believe it entirely. I was agreeing with it, but I didn't understand what it meant. But I found a good deal. And all the money, all the contractors, and all the resources found me. And now I had options. I could wholesale it, I could flip it, or I could keep it as a rental property. And so I did that. So here's how it broke. Here's the situation. I'm living in an older house in an older, rougher part of town. Pow, pow, bang, bang, that kind of area.
Yep.
I'm living for free. Traveling for work Monday through Friday, flying out of town. My wife's in a master's program. We're both working 24/7. We got a couple people living in our house, roommates, and our house is free. We got cameras on the house. We've got no problems. We're living on easy street. This is amazing. And I've got a rental property in a nicer part of town, newer part of town with great school districts where everyone wants to live and raise their family. My tenants were living like a better life than me. Like you drive to this area and it's like they've got BMWs and Mercedes that they owe money on. I know because you see the credit reports when you're screening your tenants. They are renting a house from me, making payments on a car that they probably have no business having, right? And we're driving older, paid off cars, living in an older, rougher part of town, living for free. And so it was the polar opposite of the story that you hear on the news about the big, the mean old wicked real estate investor, there's
Right.
Scrooge McDuck people with a monocle driving a Rolls Royce swimming in gold coins. That was not my story at all. And so when I saw the media talking down about real estate investors and landlords, I was like, that's not us. We're working our tails off trying to build something for our future. And we stayed in that house with roommates house hacking until we had enough income from properties to then move into one of them and finally live on our own. And so this house here that you're seeing me in now, same thing. I got it from direct mail. My private lender funded it. And when we were underwriting, I told my wife, are you ready to move? I think we can move into this house, rent out the previous house that we were in, and we can live for free. And so we kind of leveled up from my story is I went from living in an apartment by myself to downgrading to renting a room to then buying a house where I rent out the rooms and live for free.
Yep.
To then now I'm living in a house for free. I mean, there's a mortgage on it, but it's being paid from cash flow from other properties.
Yep.
And I put some money into a multifamily syndication that went well. And I got licensed as a real estate agent. I help other people find their first deal. And it's just been like a wild ride, very fun. And my only regret is I didn't find this earlier in life because I didn't get involved in real estate till my late 20s.
That's still early compared to me, man. I was probably in my 40s before I started getting involved. So you still started way before I did.
Yeah. And I'm just glad I found it. So I just want to let everybody know about this great opportunity that's out there. And, especially younger people. I mean, it's never too late to get involved in real estate. You're a good example of that. But, I see people that have a decent job. They have a nice apartment, nice car. And I'm like, man, what you could do with that if you would house hack and then save up your money and start buying rental properties. Now, fast forward to today, I don't know, 8 years since I bought my first piece of real estate, I think. Fast forward to now, knowing what I know, I mean, we all have these stories, right? You have these stories too. If we could just go back, knowing what I know now, I know I don't have to house hack for my first deal. It was smart. I don't regret it, but I could have went right to doing the direct mail. I could have stayed renting a room, or I could have had an apartment and I could have house hacked, and or I didn't have to house hack. I could have just went right into getting properties off market, wholesaling, flipping, building out my rental portfolio. Something I also regret is that my goal going into this was to keep everything. And looking back, I probably should have wholesaled more and maybe flipped more and wholesaled more instead of trying to keep everything. Because there was a period of time when stuff didn't meet my criteria, I was kind of throwing it out because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't really know much about wholesaling. But I wish I would have done more than that. But going back, man, knowing what I know, man, I I just would have stepped on the gas. I would have got started sooner. I would have
Right.
worked harder. And, I learned the only thing that was holding me back was myself.
It's crazy how that works, huh? That we are our own worst enemies, and that we don't see our potential in ourselves until somebody kind of points out, like, you can do this. And you're like, I can do that. It's like almost like somebody gave us permission. I can do that, really? It's okay to do that. Interesting. Um, so you shared a lot with us. One of the things that I like to ask my guests is, listening to your story, it sounds like you had a couple pivotal people that kind of provided you some, I'd say, some knowledge or some nuggets that you weren't aware of. But I didn't hear anything about any kind of mentorships other than the books that you're reading. So on your journey, did you enter any formal mentorships, or were your audiobooks and your bigger pocket meetups? Is that the only education you have before you started actually acquiring properties?
So I did not enter a mentorship or coaching program until after I'd done a few deals. And I maintain that you can do deals without mentorship, without formal mentorship or coaching. Knowing what I know today, I would have gotten a mentorship or coaching program sooner, because
Sure.
I did make some mistakes. I was holding myself back, and someone could have sat down and told me and shook me and said, "Hey, you're capable of doing much, much more. So run, get out there, do it, and knock it out quicker than what you did." But I have been in several mentorships now, both for single family. I joined a multifamily coaching program and spent 2 years learning everything there is to know about multifamily and getting certifications. And I've also done I've also represented the real estate industry when in the political space, lobbying, right? So worked with the National Apartment Association, representing us with state and local representatives for real estate issues to keep real estate affordable for everybody, and just making sure our elected officials who make decisions about our life understand the jobs that are provided by this, and what it costs to own and operate. So every step of my life I've grown, and I think of it like a chart. Like, think of it like a stock chart, how it goes like up, 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 and then it plateaus. And I believe if you're not growing, you're dying, because every step of my life, whether it was in my W-2 world or it was in my real estate career, we went up, 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 and then we plateau. And then you're going to start turning down and shrinking as a person, the opposite of growing. And then a mentorship took me to that next level. And so that's been my experience, is that every step of the way, it's like if I find myself not growing the way I need to, the answer was always a mentorship. But I maintain that you can do a deal. I did my first couple of deals with no mentorship at all. Made some mistakes, didn't rehab properties properly, probably took down more than I should have when I should have wholesaled or flipped a little more.
Right.
So if I was in a formal mentorship and someone was being paid to look over my deals and pay attention to me, I probably would have done things a little bit differently. But it's been life changing. It's been life changing to me, being involved in paid communities. But there are free groups all around you, and so you got to get involved with one or the other. You can't live on an island and do this business.
Yeah, most of the people, or I'd say most, there are people out there that will be saying, "Well, I can't do this. I don't have a rich uncle and aunt," right? And in your story, you shared how somebody that you knew said, "Well, have you ever talked to a money lender to see if they'll fund that part of the deal?" And you're like, you didn't know you could do that. How have you been able to find or meet people that are willing to be private money lenders? So for people that are watching this, they may say, "Well, I don't know anybody that has money, or I don't know anybody who will lend." What has been your go-to to help find those people that will help you fund deals, so that you can get into more deals?
So a couple of fundamental beliefs that I have. One, there is always more money than there are deals. It's just a fact. It's a fact. There are more money than there are deals. Go to any real estate meetup. Who here is a hard money lender or private lender? Hands go up. Well, who here has deals? Hands go up. You're going to see like 10 to 1. It's going to be 10 to 1. Even the wholesalers and real estate agents that are there, that they put a deal under contract and they're looking to assign the deal to the investor, there's just not as many deals as there is money. So if you have a good deal, the money will find you. And I know that sounds cliche. I was told that over and over again before my first deal, but it's true. I discovered it to be true on my first deal, is that if you find the good deal, the good money will fight for you. They'll compete for you. They'll undercut each other's rates to try to build the relationship with you. Another fundamental belief I have is that the deals are out there. Another common question I get is, are there any deals out there? Well, there's not deals in my market. Maybe in Houston, Texas, where you are, there's lots of deals. There's not deals here. At any given time, 4% of all real estate is distressed. Now, it might be physical distress where the property needs a lot of work, or the sellers might be distressed. They might be moving. They might have inherited the property. They might need a quick sale now for cash. So 4% of all properties are distressed at any given time. And that's not 4% total for all of time. That's 4% right now. That means when the 4% have their problem solved, they're facing foreclosure or whatever the case may be, when that clears up, there's another 4% that hits the table. And in some parts of the country, these numbers are higher, but nationwide, it's 4%. So there are people right now in your community that need your help. They don't know how to solve these problems. They've got a full-time job. They're just trying to get up, go to work, come home, watch sports games, pick their kids up from school, go shopping. They don't know how to solve the problem of when they inherited a property. They don't know how to solve the problem of they're going through a divorce. They don't know how to unwind this nice, expensive house they bought. They don't know how to do it. They need your help. And because I look at the data, I know every month where I'm at, houses go to foreclosure that we could have saved, that we could have got money in their pocket and got them their credit rescued and everything. But there has just not been enough people out there saying and doing the right things to save all these deals. So 2 fundamental beliefs. 1, there's always deals around you. 2, there's more money than there is deals. And so then the next thing that comes along is if people are willing to accept this reality, next thing is like, well, what do we do? How do we get it? Well, it's out there. The information is free and it's everywhere. Information is cheap, information is out there. And so 1, money's all around you. 2, the deals are everywhere. 3, if you need information, go get it. But then 4, it's just about you taking action. So you asked me, how do we find the private money lenders? Meetup groups, great. You can get on Facebook right now, whatever town you're in, Chicago, Miami, Colorado, Denver, whatever it is, just type in Denver Real Estate Investing Group. You can ask for a hard money lender, private money lender there. Be careful in those Facebook groups. There's a lot of people overseas that are not actual lenders. I would arrange to meet someone in person, and I would not pay any money up front when dealing with a lender. That's also a common way to know you're not talking to a real lender if they want an application fee before they'll fund your deal. But there is more money than there is deals, and I've never had a problem finding hard money or private money lenders. And also, you don't have to start with private money. What I know now, I would tell somebody new, start with hard money, not private money. With private money, there's less controls on what you're doing. And what I mean by that is, let's say the rehab on a deal is $30,000, just to use round numbers. Typically, a hard money lender is going to use a draw system, which means you're going to do 10,000 of the rehab. The hard money lender is going to go out there and inspect it, make sure it was done. Then they're going to give you 10 grand of the 30,000 rehab. Then you're going to pay for the next 10 grand. They're going to do 3 draws of 10,000. There's a second set of eyes over you, professional eyes, that if the contractor is not doing the right thing or you don't know what you're doing, the hard money lender company is going to tell you, hey, I can't give you the next draw yet. This isn't done correctly. And then you can make the hard money lender the bad guy with the contractors and say, hey, I can't get paid, so I can't pay you guys till you go back out there and actually plumb in the sink that you told me was plumbed in. And they went out there and looked and it's not there. With private money lenders, typically there's less controls, less set of eyes over you. So I think private money should be for more experienced people. I went straight into private money, but knowing what I know today, there's nothing wrong with doing hard money. That they're your partner. And also, people ask me, is this a good deal? Is this a good deal? Have you talked to a hard money lender? If it's a bad deal, a hard money lender will not fund it.
Yeah. True statement.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would add to your list is, just network with people and tell them what you're doing. I've found out that as I share with people what I am doing, I get more opportunities sent my way. So if you're looking for somebody like a private money lender, you tell them, hey, yeah, I'm fixing flipping. If somebody has money they're trying to lend, they're like, do you have a lender for that? You know, so being vocal about what you're doing also could be another way of finding resources that you didn't know that were out there. So
Yeah, here's an exercise everybody can do, and I bet you won't do it. To people listening, go to your stories on your Facebook, because stories are only there for 24 hours and they go away. And just post, I buy houses cash, any condition, DM me. You wouldn't believe how many people know somebody who's got distressed piece of real estate in your network right now. A lot of people won't do it. They'll tell me they'll do it. They won't. You don't want to do that because, hey, I get it. You're frame locked in your current identity. You're a truck driver. You're a nurse. You're a doctor. You're a construction worker. That's the identity you've adopted, right? And it's hard to get away from that because you're not a real estate investor and you're not a cash buyer. Well, go into these Facebook groups and just say, hey, I'm a cash buyer. I'm looking to buy a house, any condition. DM me your deals or DM me anything that you need me to look at. You'll get tons of real estate agents and wholesalers in that situation. It's a different demographic that's going to DM you, but now you have tons of deals that you can underwrite and you can learn how to analyze. So there are deals around you that you are completely unaware of.
agreed. So I want to make sure, because I know this about you and it hasn't come out in the conversation. So I want to make sure that I bring value to you. So you actually have a coaching program. Can you share with us what you teach and what value you try to bring to other people?
Yeah, it's how to get your first deal. It's deal finding, and so I've seen people focus on, hey, let's flip, or hey, let's wholesale, or hey, I just want to buy rentals, or I want to do creative stuff, buy stuff subject to, I want to have no cash, no credit, no banks. But all of those have one common theme. It's deal finding the deal. And, markets change, areas change. 8 years ago, the places I was looking for houses are not a good place to look anymore, in my opinion, right? The juice is not worth the squeeze. But as one area where I used to buy rentals doesn't make sense anymore, another area opens up where it does make sense to buy rentals. And then an area where I would have loved to flip in the past, that area, it's not really juicy to me. So I want to look at a different part of Houston for my flips. And so I'm not hung up on the strategy we use once we get the deal. All I care about is deal finding the deals. Once you find the deal, we can figure out which bucket to put it into. Do we wholesale it? Do we flip it? Or do we add it to your portfolio? Some people have more time than money, so we'll have a different marketing strategy. Some people have more money than time. We'll have a different market strategy for that. Some people absolutely positively do not want to hold rental property. They don't want to do it. They don't want to. They think that they're going to get a phone call at 3 a.m. and the house is flooding. Never happened to me, but that's just what people think, and I'm fine with that. So they just say, hey, I just want to flip, or I just want to wholesale. Some people say, I want absolutely nothing to do with the construction site. I just want to wholesale. All that's fine, but it all has one thing in common. It starts with finding the deal. So we know the numbers. We know where the deals are every single month. We know how long it takes to find them. We know what it takes in contact rates and what your success rate is in putting properties under contract. And so I focus on finding the deal. What we do with that after the deal, case by case basis. But if you can't find the deal, you can't do the business.
Awesome. So in my experience, real estate, in the title of my podcast, Good, Bad, and Ugly, everybody's had a problem child of theirs and, a good story. Can you share with us, a good story and a bad story in your journey so people can learn from the both sides of the coin when it comes to real estate?
Absolutely. So we talked about a lot of good stories. And I forgot to mention on my first deal, I made $117,000. How's that for a good story?
There you go.
Yeah. A bad story. And it is my fault. I was in a rush to find a tenant for one of my properties. because I was in a situation where I was moving from one house to another house. In order for the lender to approve the loan, I had to have a signed lease agreement with the new tenant and the deposit check clear my bank account. So I skipped some of my own steps in selecting a tenant. I put someone in there I shouldn't. Everything was fine for, I think they were there for about 2.5 years in that property. And when it came time to get them out, I realized I made a second mistake. You're really, either you or somebody you hire should be going to look at the house at least once a year, and it should be in your lease agreement that you're doing an annual inspection of the property. Just because a tenant doesn't raise their hand and say something's wrong with the house doesn't mean that there's nothing wrong with the house. So I discovered that even though they had no animals when they moved in, they had acquired a few. I found that all the carpet had to be replaced. I found that this guy had cut holes in the wall to mount his TVs. Didn't even put like a nice faceplate on it, just cut with a Sawzall. He was a contractor.
Oh, wow.
And he even ruined hardwood floors in some areas of the house. And there had been a freeze that had happened and a pipe had burst, and he fixed it himself and did not do it the right way. And so when this guy moved out, I thought I was going to freshen stuff up, paint, maybe do some carpet, have the property on the market. At the time that he left, I wanted to sell this property. It was time to sell. And it took about $20,000 of rehab. On top of that, another mistake that I did myself, because I did not have the proper mentor at the time.
Sure.
A storm hit Houston and I needed a new roof, blew the roof off, blew the shingles off the roof. Well, I went for the cheapest insurance I could get, and I went for a high deductible. So you already know what happened, brother. They denied that roof. So there's a $10,000 roof and a $20,000 rehab inside the house, and longer hold times too. I thought the house would be able to be market ready in a month or less. Took much longer than that. And so when you think about the holding cost of a home, it could be $2,500 a month it takes to hold a home empty, because you got to pay the mortgage, the lights, the water, taxes and insurance are a thing. And so I think when it was all said and done, I probably made $40,000 less than I thought I was going to on that house. And it was nobody's fault but my own, because all my other friends that had rental properties, their roofs got covered by the storm because they had the proper insurance coverage. Right. And I thought I was being so smart, saving a few $100 a year by raising my deductible on all my houses. Right. But now I understand, what I should and should not do here. Right. So now I have the proper coverage. I now know that I have to go look at my properties or hire someone to go look at my properties every year. And so all those problems came back to my own as well. I should not have selected that tenant. I had plenty of applicants. I've never had a problem filling a house. Every time I put it for rent, I just get a flood of applicants, people who want to live there. Never had a problem filling a house. I just was in a rush and I chose the wrong people. So I've learned from all of that, and I haven't repeated any of those mistakes. So when you think you're making $100,000 on a house and it really turns into about $60,000, you still made money, but man, does that hurt your pride.
And you could have, and realizing that you could have made a lot more had you just, made some different decisions.
That's right. Well,
that's awesome. I appreciate you today, Michael, and all the knowledge you shared with us. If somebody's watching this and they're like, this guy's knowledgeable, maybe I want to take advantage of his coaching program, or I just want to follow him and see what's next on his journey, how can somebody get in contact with you or follow you to see how things are progressing?
Yeah, so you can text me. I know it's just crazy, but I give out my number on this. But don't call me. I get so many spam calls, I won't know it's you. So if anybody has any more questions, they can text me, 832-301-9672. You can also follow me on Instagram at Michael B. Someone. Shoot me a DM. I also have a YouTube at Michael B. Someone or Michael Hong. We're putting out a lot of content. I'm trying to help a lot of people. And listen, I'm 36. I've been real estate retired since I was 35. I have a podcast, the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hong. You were on the show.
Yeah.
I'm just excited to wake up every day on my own terms, go for a walk, eat a healthy breakfast, do whatever I want, get on the podcast, get on YouTube, make content. I'm just excited to help and give back, because I just want I think of that. I started when I was 29, and I'm like, man, if someone would have just was able to get through to me and get me started at 25 or 21, like how far would I be in life? Or even like you started later in life, I just want to get to people sooner and let people know what's possible. So give my content a like and a share, post any questions you got there, DM me on Instagram or shoot me a text directly. And let me know how I can help you, or if you have deals in Houston, Texas, you want me to take a look at, send them my way. I'll get you paid on any deal that I close on.
That's awesome. And just for the audience, all his contact information will be in the description, so don't worry about it if you didn't catch it. And make sure you follow him. Make sure you share and like and subscribe to this channel. If you don't like YouTube, it'll be on Spotify as well, because I try to multi-platform. Again, Michael, thank you so much for being on the show, man. And to the audience, we'll see you on the next one.
Love it. Thank you, brother.